In 1863, as America was engulfed in the flames of the Civil War, Henry Ford was born on a prosperous farm in Greenfield Township, Michigan. His father, William Ford, was a hard-working farmer of Irish descent. He firmly believed that his eldest son would follow in his footsteps, that he would love the smell of damp earth and enjoy misty mornings carrying a plow to the fields. But he was wrong. Henry despised farm work. To him, it was a meaningless cycle of sweat and physical toil, where humans and draft horses had to exhaust their strength every day just to survive. The event that changed the rural boy's life occurred when he was 12 years old. That year, his father gave him a pocket watch. Instead of just checking the time like other children, Henry curiously dismantled it, then meticulously reassembled every gear and tiny screw until it ticked again. Before long, he became the reluctant watch repairman for the entire neighborhood. But the watch was merely a small toy. The real shock came in 1876 when Henry was riding a horse-drawn carriage to Detroit with his father. In the muddy dirt road, he witnessed firsthand a massive machine spewing black smoke, moving without the pulling power of horses, a steam-powered traction engine. The heavy, noisy, and clumsy machine was deeply etched into the teenager's mind. Right then, Henry realized his life's mission. Machines would liberate humans from manual labor. At 16, despite his father's fierce opposition, Henry packed his bags and walked to Detroit to become an apprentice at a machine shop. He accepted working grueling 10-hour days, taking in watches to repair at night to earn extra money to get by. Although he would later occasionally return to the farm, marry the woman of his life, Clara Bryant, and try living a farmer's life, the calling of motorized machines never ceased in his mind. In 1891, Henry Ford brought his wife and left the farm once again to return to Detroit. This time he worked as an engineer for the Edison Illuminating Company. With his innate mechanical brilliance, he rose quickly, becoming chief engineer in 1893. The job provided him with a high salary and the free time to pursue a crazy dream, building a horseless carriage powered by a gasoline engine. During the long winter nights in Detroit, in a small shed behind his house, Henry and a few friends secretly built his machine. They welded, cut, and filed scrap metal pieces. The smell of gasoline was suffocating, and the deafening sound of hammering echoed late into the night. And then, on a rainy June night of 1896, the first machine was completed. It was called the quadricycle, a light iron frame mounted on 4 bicycle wheels, powered by a 2-cylinder engine generating 4 horsepower. But as Henry prepared to take the machine outside for a test run, he realized a hilariously awkward truth. The vehicle was wider than the shed's doors. Without hesitation, Henry grabbed an axe and smashed the brick wall of the rented shed to clear a path for the vehicle to roll out. Under the Detroit drizzle, Henry Ford sat on the vibrating vehicle, started the engine, and took his first laps on the city streets. It was not just the beginning of a car, but the transformation of the entire United States. A few months later, at a convention in New York, Henry had the chance to meet his idol, the great inventor Thomas Edison. Upon hearing Henry present his gasoline internal combustion engine, Edison slammed his fist on the table, eyes gleaming, and said, "You have it, a car that carries its own power plant. Keep at it." Edison's encouragement became a guiding light for Ford through the thorny years ahead. Knowing how to build a car was one thing, but turning it into a profitable business was something else entirely. Henry Ford's entrepreneurial path was not paved with roses. In 1899, he resigned from Edison's company, raised capital, and founded the Detroit Automobile Company. However, his investors only wanted to produce luxurious, expensive cars to sell to the wealthy, the only people who could afford cars at the time. Conversely, Ford was a perfectionist. He constantly dismantled and redesigned the car to make it better and cheaper, stalling production. The company went bankrupt after just 2 years. In 1901, he founded the Henry Ford Company. The same script played out. Fiery conflicts between him and his shareholders caused him to angrily walk away from the company bearing his own name. The company was later reorganized and became the renowned Cadillac automobile brand. Failing twice by the age of 40, many thought Henry Ford was washed up, but he did not give up. In 1903, with a modest capital of $28,000 raised from a few daring investors, the Ford Motor Company was born. This time, Henry had full control. His dream was very clear, but also incredibly arrogant for the time. "I will build a motor car for the great multitude. It will be large enough for the family, but small enough for the individual to run and care for. It will be constructed of the best materials by the best men to be hired, but it will be so low in price that no man making a good salary will be unable to own one." In October 1908, that dream became reality. Ford Motor Company launched the legendary Model T. Unlike the bulky, fragile, and expensive cars of the era, the Model T was a durable beast. It was made of vanadium steel, a lightweight yet incredibly tough alloy, enabling the car to withstand the muddy, pothole-filled dirt roads of America at the time. It was easy to drive and repair. A farmer could even use barbed wire to temporarily tie a loose part if needed. Its initial price was $850. Still a large sum of money, but vastly cheaper than its competitors. The world went crazy for the Model T. Orders poured in like a flood. Henry Ford faced a happy yet daunting problem: how to produce cars fast enough to meet demand. Ford's answer forever changed the global industrial landscape. Inspired by the disassembly lines at meatpacking plants in Chicago, Ford and his engineers introduced the moving assembly line system at the Highland Park plant in 1913. Instead of having workers run around the car assembling each part, Ford had the car move on a conveyor belt through each workstation. Each worker stayed in one place and performed a single repetitive motion. One tightened screws, one attached wheels, another dropped in the engine. This division of labor created a miracle of productivity. The time required to assemble a chassis dropped from 12.5 hours to just 93 minutes. Thanks to the assembly line, the price of the Model T continuously dropped, at one point reaching just $260. Now, the automobile was no longer a toy for the elite. It belonged to the farmer, the teacher, the miner. For the first time in human history, geographical distances were blurred by an affordable mechanical machine. The assembly line was a roaring success, but it birthed another nightmare: worker burnout. The robotic, repetitive work drained their physical and mental strength. The turnover rate at the Ford plant reached record highs. To maintain a workforce of 14,000, Ford had to hire 52,000 people a year. Once again, Henry Ford made a decision that shook the capitalist world. In January 1914, he announced a wage of $5 a day for male workers, double the industry average at the time, while also reducing working hours from 9 to 8. The Wall Street Journal called it an economic crime, and competitors cursed him for undercutting the labor market. But Ford was no impulsive philanthropist. He was a shrewd capitalist. The $5 a day wage immediately solved the personnel issue. Workers were more productive, more loyal, and no one wanted to quit. And more remarkably, Ford realized by paying workers high wages, they would have enough money to buy the very Model Ts they assembled. This decision not only boosted Ford's sales, but also played a crucial role in giving birth to America's middle class. Reaching the pinnacle of fame, the stubbornness that once helped Ford succeed became his fatal flaw. As the world entered the 1920s, consumers began to tire of the noisy, outdated black Model Ts. They wanted cars that were more colorful, smoother, and more comfortable, exactly what rival General Motors, GM, was offering. His only son, Edsel Ford, a refined, calm, and visionary man, repeatedly begged his father to upgrade the Model T and change its design, but Henry Ford, with the colossal ego of a great founder, adamantly refused. He believed the Model T was perfect and verbally abused his son whenever Edsel suggested innovations. Henry's bitterness toward Edsel not only ruined the company's business strategy but also destroyed the spirit of the very son he loved. It wasn't until 1927, when sales hit rock bottom, that Henry finally agreed to shut down the factory for months to shift production to a new model, the Model A. Though the Model A was a resounding success, Ford Motors' absolute dominance had permanently fallen into the hands of General Motors. The death of Edsel Ford from stomach cancer in 1943 was a devastating blow that crushed Henry's spirit. He always blamed others, but deep down he probably understood that his own immense pressure and tyranny had hastened his son's passing. A few years after Edsel's death, Henry Ford's physical and mental health rapidly declined following several strokes. He was no longer lucid enough to run the empire he had built. In 1945, under family pressure, he was forced to hand over power to his grandson, Henry Ford II. On April 7, 1947, a massive flood on the Rouge River knocked out power to Ford's entire Fairlane estate. That night, in a cold room, under the flickering light of candles and kerosene lamps, a scene identical to the night he was born on the farm 84 years earlier, Henry Ford breathed his last. The farm boy who once despised the fields was gone, but he left behind a world vastly different from the one into which he was born. Henry Ford's legacy lies not only in antique Model Ts or gigantic smoke-belching factories. He rewrote the rules of capitalism, reshaped industrial production, and changed the way humanity moves across the surface of the earth. He was an obstinate genius, a tyrannical reformer, but above all, the man who put an engine on the wheel of history and forced it to accelerate.